Welcome. So this video I will showcase you how you can quickly install your Arch plus HyprV4 and uh, some configurations on your Hyprland config and how to install your Neovim and your Neovim Kickstart if you'd like to use it as well. So let's hop on to the video. Starting here, we're going to follow the Arch wiki so we can have a fresh Arch installation. So for that, we're gonna need an image. So click here in download. It's gonna open this little page here. You can scroll down a little bit. Uh, you can download either the worldwide mirror, or you can choose a server that is hosting that file close to you. I'm hosted in Brazil, so obviously I downloaded from a Brazil server. In this case, this one. You're gonna download the .iso file. Once it's downloaded here, you're gonna get Ventoy. So search Ventoy download, click the first link. It's gonna go to this page. You're gonna download this zip. This is gonna open SourceForge. You click download. Wait a little bit. If it prompts you to download again, you click, and then you're gonna receive this zip. You unzip it, go inside. You're gonna have this exe. You're gonna run it. Select your pen drive, click install. It's gonna wipe out your whole pen drive. Okay. You click yes. It's gonna prompt you twice. Yes. So it's gonna start deleting everything inside your pen drive. So once it's done, it's gonna prompt you this window with your disk. Usually it's gonna set up as a D disk if your main disk is not D, if your main disk is C. And then you're gonna go to this PC. You're gonna open your new Ventoy pen drive, and then you're gonna just copy the file in here. So just drag and drop, and wait until the ISO file is copied into your bootable USB. So once it's done, you're gonna have your new bootable USB with your Arch image in here. You can fit in other images inside. I suggest you have at least 16 gigs, so you have enough space for your image and for other images if you want to. 8 gigs is fine for one image like Arch or Windows, but I suggest you having at least 16 gigs. On this pen drive has 32. So our pen drive is ready to go. If we want to start installing, we're good. But you gotta make sure you have enough space in your disk. So you can open the disk manager. Once it's open here, you can wipe the disk within Windows, or you can wipe the disk within the live USB in Arch using CF disk or GS disk. You choose whatever you want. But in this case, I'm not gonna do it within Windows, so that's why I have my old Arch installation here. These 3 partitions. So this is my boot partition. This is my swap partition. This is my primary partition, or my file system, and that's why we're gonna delete this. I have around 100 gigs for my new installation, and we're going to hop onto the installation now. So now we're going to show how to connect to the internet via Wi-Fi. If you're connected via Ethernet, you don't have to do this. So we're going to use the IWCTL command line tool. You're going to list all the devices, and then we're going to turn on both the adapter and the devices. Your adapter and your device might have a different name. You just substitute your device and adapter name. Now we're going to scan all the networks and show all the scanned networks. Your Wi-Fi should be listed here. Then you can exit the utility, and then we're just going to connect using IWCTL again. So IWCTL dash dash passphrase, your Wi-Fi password. Then you're gonna type station, the name of your device, connect, and the name of your network, and you should connect. Now we're gonna verify that we have received indeed an IP address. So you can see here that I have 192.168.100.52. That's my IPv4. And then now we're gonna ping archlinux.org just to verify that we have indeed internet access. So let's proceed with the installation. Let's start by loading keys or changing our keyboard layout. In this case, mine is Brazilian ABNT2. You can check a list to check which one will be yours. Now let's list out the block devices we have available. Mine, I will install into NVMe 0 and 1. We can now cfdisk into the /dev/ the name of the device you want to install into. Check the free space and create 3 new partitions. The first one will be 600 megabytes. This is our boot partition. The next one will be 2 gigabytes. This will be our swap partition. And the next one will be the rest of the space. Now to change the type accordingly. So 600 to be EFI, the 2 gigs to be Linux swap, and the last one to be Linux file system. Write the changes and quit the utility. Let's format the partitions. The first one is the EFI partition. We're going to format it as FAT32. Mine is the P4 partition. In your case, you got to check which one is the 600 megabyte. Next, we're going to format the main file system as ext4, or the biggest space available you've got will be that partition. Mine is a P6. And we're going to make swap on the 2 gigabyte partition. Now we're going to swap onto that and start mounting. We're going to mount the main file system onto the /mount. And create a boot partition. So /mount/boot. And we're going to mount the EFI partition onto that boot folder. And let's verify the partitions have been formatted properly. The 600 as FAT32, the 2 gig as swap, and the rest, or the main one, as the ext4 on /mount. Now let's install Arch Linux itself. We're using the packstrap utility on /mount. We're gonna install Linux and Linux firmware utilities. We're gonna install only the basic packages to have a functional Arch Linux distribution. We want a fresh install because the rest of the utilities will be installed via script that we're gonna use. So we don't really care about installing the rest of the things manually. We just want a bootable Arch installation. We will now generate the file system table using the gen fs tab, or the generate file system table, using UUIDs onto the /mount, etc. fs tab. And let's change root into our newly installed Arch. Let's change our root password, so you define whatever password you would like. And let's start by setting our locale and adjusting our time. You're just gonna have to find which one is your locale and time zone. In my case, it's Brazil East, and you can have a list just by listing the zone info folder, or LSing the zone info folder. And let's just set the clock here. this is my preference, so I usually use my hardware clock to be synced with UTC. So, but you can use local time as well. Now we're gonna set our locale. In this case, I'm setting my locale to be NNENUS with UTF-8. You can choose other locale if you'd like, but I think the standard one is fine. And now we're gonna change our key map. Our key map is basically our load keys. So it's our keyboard, and you're gonna set it to etc/vconsole.conf. And last, we're gonna set our host name. You can choose whatever you like. I always leave mine archlinux, but the name doesn't actually matter. You should use whatever name you'd like. Let's start installing a few packages that will be needed for the installation here. So we'll start with grub. I'll use grub as our bootloader, and as I'm booting in UEFI mode, not BIOS mode, I'm gonna need the EFI boot manager utility tool. We're also gonna install sudo vim network manager git and base devel. So the base devel is mainly for installing yay later on, and the network manager for having network connection when we boot the OS. So after installing the packages here, let's start by enabling the network manager's service on start. So when we boot our Arch, we have actual internet connection, and this is via Ethernet. If you want, you can use other utility to connect via Wi-Fi as well, as I showed in the start of the video. Now we're gonna install our bootloader using grub install. In this case, as I said, I'm using UEFI boot. It's not BIOS boot, so if you're also using UEFI boot, you can just copy and paste this one. If you want boot BIOS mode, you can, or legacy mode, you can search the Arch wiki, and it's gonna be there. It's just a different command. You're gonna change your target, but the directory or the EFI directory will be the same, and your bootloader ID will also be grub. So you only change your target. So we have installed the grub. Now let's just make the grub configuration file. So let's output it in boot grub.config. And let's add a new user. So in this case, -m-g will, or -m will create a desktop for that user. -g, we're gonna add that user to the wheel group, so you can use sudo, and we're gonna choose the shell to be bin bash, and then the username. In this case, my name is Clib. You're gonna change the password for that username, and now we're gonna edit the visudo file so we can actually use the sudo privileges. So we're just gonna search for the wheel line and uncomment that, and be sure to uncomment the one that asks for your password. Otherwise, you can use sudo without asking for password. So now let's change into Clib, or your username, and let's just install our or let's test our sudo command by installing the updates. And now all we have to do is just exit, and we're ready to unmount. So umount -R/mount. So we're gonna unmount everything, and now we can just reboot. After reboot, we are ready to install our HyprV4, and we're gonna start by cloning the repo. So it's git clone github.com/solidstack/HyprV4. You can clone it on your home directory. We're gonna change directory into HyprV4, and before we run the script, the current version has a little bug that we're gonna have to adjust the script, and for that we're gonna vim into that, or whatever editor you would like to use. So we're gonna vim into the script and search for nwg. and then we're gonna change this dash bin and remove it. It's just nwg-look. Save the file, and now we can run the script. So when we run the script, it's gonna prompt us for installation, and we're just gonna accept that we want to keep installing. We're gonna insert our password. So be sure to not run the script using sudo. For whatever reason, sometimes it bugs out and some things don't go as expected. Just prompt the password within the script, okay? So let's disable power save. Usually the power save might generate some problems. So you would like to also generate or disable power save if you're on notebook, especially, or on your laptop. So now we're gonna configure yay here. So that's why it's gonna take a little bit. After yay has been configured, it's gonna prompt us to install some packages. So just click yes. This is where it's probably gonna spend a lot of time. So you just gotta wait a little bit. A TLDR, if something goes wrong, is you gotta quit the script and install the package manually. You're just basically gonna type yay, the name of the package, or yay-s and the name of the package, and wait for it to install manually. For whatever reason, there might be something going wrong with installing certain packages on your system. If that happens to you, just do that. But in my case, luckily, it didn't. So I just had to wait for all the packages to be installed. So basically, we're just reviewing here what we're doing here. We're just installing a bunch of packages that will enable us to have the HyprV4 configuration, and we're gonna have a specific files for our Hyprland config as well. So stuff like waybar and everything. So now let's just wait for all the packages to be installed. After all the packages have been installed, it's going to prompt you to copy config files, type yes, and it's also going to prompt you to activate the Starship shell. The Starship is basically a way for you to configure the appearance of your terminal. So it also has a different appearance for the terminal. You can also accept the Asus ROG support if you have an Asus motherboard. If you don't, just type no. It's going to prompt you to reboot, but before that, we want to change some things into our newly installed Hyprland configuration. The first thing is on line 102. So you're going to look for line 102 and comment out that line, because some stuff in here is still legacy code. So we're going to comment out this new is master equal true. And we're also going to look for line 113 to comment out this sensitivity as well, because we might want to change this later on, but the way it's configured, it's different from what the script has installed. So now we're also going to change our keyboard layout in here. So the keyboard layout, mine is Brazil variant ABNT2 as shown before, because this will override your Linux configuration. Basically, this will override your load keys. Your load keys will only work on your SDDM login screen, and once you log into Hyprland, you gotta have your keyboard configured into your Hyprland config file. That's why we have to configure it here, because if we reboot now and then wait to configure it later on, we might not be able to use the key bindings that we expect. Now we are free to reboot, so we're gonna basically reboot. As you can see, after rebooting, we have our SDDM login screen, and it's gonna, when you log in, it's gonna have a blank black screen before you click the change version or change the variant, and then you can test out just changing stuff. And yeah, that's it. That's your Hyprland installation, now you're basically ready to use and configure as you'd like. I'm going now to show you some configurations that I like to do after fresh installation, both for Hyprland and how to install Neovim with Kickstart if you'd like as well. So you just gotta follow the tutorial on screen, and that's it. So let's move on. But if you don't want to watch that, you can just quit the video right now. That's all we have to do for the installation. Now you can use your OS freely. And yeah, let's go. So we're gonna open here our Hyprland config file, and I like to add and change some bindings at the start. So the first thing I wanna do is I like to remove or comment this bind of the main mod M to logout, and I like to add a full screen bind to F, so it actually full screens completely the window. And I like to add a semi full screen bind to M, so maximize a window, so it's more intuitive. So F for full screen, as you can see here, and I like to use M for maximizing. The last thing I wanna showcase here is how to install Neovim, and especially use the Neovim starter pack. So you can just go into the Neovim release GitHub and just copy and paste the pre-built archives and just install them on your machine. So you have a freshly installed Neovim. I don't like to use the AUR or the package management to install it, because it's not on the latest version. Even though Arch works on a rolling release base, it's up to date on a lot of stuff. Usually it's better be safe than sorry when it comes to installing Neovim, because when you're installing the starter pack, it's going to require you to have the latest stable or nightly release. So as you can see, we have Neovim installed, and it's super easy. So now we want to install the Kickstarter pack. For that, you can directly search for the Neovim Kickstarter and copy and paste the installation link, or you can follow the instructions there and fork into your GitHub, so you can change your configuration for whatever you'd like. So I've recently just forked it because I used to have a config file that I've backed up, but I want to change it a little bit. So I want to focus on just changing the fork that I've got from for my GitHub account. So I'm currently accessing here my repo, and if you scroll down here to the README section, it has an installation section here where you can click Linux and Mac, and right there it's gonna have this git clone, and you can just swap the intermediary Envim Lua to your username if you have forked it. So I'm just gonna change it to my GitHub username. So after cloning this, if you just go into your Neovim, it's basically gonna have your Kickstarter installed, and that's all you need. Now it's basically using TreeSeeder as the package, the package installer, and it's using Mason for managing some linters, LSPs, and DAPs. So I'm just gonna install a basic Python linter So now I'm just gonna test a little bit if everything is working fine. I'm gonna create a directory for desktop and for coding, and I'm just gonna create here two files, one python.py file and one c.c file, so I can test if C and Python are working properly. And just gonna generate here two small code snippets to test if they are working as expected. So the first one is just a small C program that's gonna receive some arguments from the command line and just gonna print them out, and just similar to a hello world. So as you can see here, it's time to test it, and just compiling it and running it. So running without any command lines, it works. And now adding some command line arguments. So argument 1, argument 2, and argument 3, just to see if it prints out everything is fine. And now we're just gonna do the same thing for our Python script. But the thing is, I'll just print something to the command line, and just to see if everything is working as expected. And now for the Python script, let's just run here Python 3, python.py, and as expected, everything is working. So yeah, this was the video. So a quick video on installing your archlinux plus HyprV4 installation, and configuring a little bit of your initial Hyprland configuration and Neovim installation with Neovim Kickstart. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, just please leave a like. And if you want to see more content related to Linux or coding, you can subscribe to the channel, and I'll be bringing more future videos about tech in general. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.